Yo, welcome Flyffers to probably the most information-packed patch rundown that has been here on the channel so far. We are talking about the full patch 1.1.3, which was a really big one. We will also include some strategies for level 60 and level 80 Guild Siege. And we will talk a bit about all the stuff, like bringing more in-depth information to what was changed, what might need more adjustments, and especially on how you can prepare best for this patch and for the pumpkin event. So let's get right started. We are starting that level 60 Guild Siege was added. We already talked about this. What is important here to note is that do not complete their second class change. So basically, if you want to be a mage, level 60, it's fine. If you already have a level 60 Psykeeper, you cannot participate. So it's important to not complete your second job change. Then the next one is going to be the level 80 Guild Siege, which was also already announced in the roadmap. And important about those sieges is that you're not getting red chips like in the regular siege, you're getting blue chips. And those blue chips can be traded for rewards at the same NPC. And those rewards are actually good. I'm pretty surprised, but it's actually good. And the rewards we're talking about that are good are located right here. So basically you are now able to farm upgrade scrolls with doing PvP. So PvP is now not something where you can only spend. You can actually get something back. We don't know exactly yet how the chip distribution is going to be, but from what we are currently seeing, the distribution will need a bunch of adjustments so far. If it's similar to red chips, like this is the costs of playing a siege are a bit higher than what you're actually getting out of it. So the rewards still need a bit of tweaking, but at least you're not only spending now, you're getting something in return, which I think is a really good idea. And to balance out the difference between heavy cachers and just like minor players that just want to get started in PvP, they disabled the stat pads for the 60 and 80 siege, which now results in not like a high cacher running around with a 6k health unicorn being at like 20k health in the level 60 siege and just wrecking through all the people. This is not possible, which I think is a pretty decent idea. It's currently saying that the blue chips that you're getting are account linked. This in general doesn't matter since our weapons are not soul linked. It doesn't matter if they account link any of those items, because all you will buy from blue chips anyways is upgrade scrolls. Buying anything else makes basically 0 sense. So, and you can just trade over your whatever item you want and just upgrade on this account and then just continue upgrading. So this is not limiting in any way. Then also the red chip merchant got a decent overview. I have suggested this many times. I have suggested it at the point, like probably like 10 minutes after we have already talked about it in the patch rundown, that suits also need to be available at the red chip merchant. They now put every single part in there at a 250 red chip higher cost than if you would buy it. But overall, this part right here is only useful for buying a second suit in for your PvP switch. Other than that, I do not recommend buying anything from this particular spot right here. And this is also nice because we had a bunch of issues with people like DCing after a guild siege and not being able to redeem their red chips, and now this is fixed. I assume they're just sending an email if you're a mail in game if you're offline, so this is fine. fixed an issue with the 10 guilds not being displayed. On Totemia for us, this was not an issue so far, because we are usually only having like 5 to 7 guilds applying. But overall, of course, we want to have a decent ranking. Yeah. Then guild logos are now hidden during the guild siege fight. I personally dislike this change, because the only reason why we, for example, didn't put a guild logo in there was because it's a disadvantage in guild siege. And if we would have known this, our strategy would have been different. But it is how it is. And reduce the font size of announcement in guild siege arena. Finally, every private server has this, and like not seeing anything because of scoring messages just makes zero sense. And I'm really happy they did this, because it gives you a way better overview, makes it easier for you to focus in PvP. Then, yeah, we are having something I personally think in general makes sense, because like a mage should be able to use Blink Pool, but because it's like one of his escape skills. But with the increased bomb speed that they've been doing, I think this is completely busted. So if you want to bring Blink Pool back to PvP, this makes perfectly sense. It also doesn't have to have a 15-second cooldown in PvP, but for God's sake, remove the extreme speed of the bombs. This, if played correctly, will allow a Psykeeper, for example, to blink onto you and just cast bombs, and there's zero counterplay. The bombs are doing so much damage, you can basically do nothing, and you're just getting wrecked. And I personally think that Blink Pool should be more of like a chase tool or a defensive tool, and not resulting in you being to easily score skills based on a bomb speed increase. And I also already think that it's not about like Psykeeper being strong or bad. They ruined the identity of the class. Like, it's not about balance. It's about Psykeeper used to be a class where you would stack bombs and play around with your CC, so you can actually connect the bombs to your target and get the kill. And instead of like increasing bomb speed or bomb damage, why don't you choose an approach where you actually need skill to play a Psykeeper? So you're bringing more CC spells to a Psykeeper while we're having a holy cooldown that is quite high. So for example, you have 2 CC skills that have a 100% probability chance, and it would be played like this. You're stacking bombs onto the Psykeeper, onto your target while you're on damage gear on the Psykeeper, on tank gear on the Psykeeper, and then you're using your first CC spell. The target is using a holy, then you're using your second CC spell, the target basically can do nothing. You're then switching into damage gear, your bombs connect and you're getting the kill, and you actually have a class that has its own identity, its own playstyle, and you're not stuck with a class that basically all it does is being the better ranger, and extremely boring to play. Now all the guild siege times have been adjusted according to the polls, which I really like, especially that we now have on Totemia, I can only speak for the server I'm playing at, Wednesday sieges, so it's not like you have nothing to do during the whole week, and then only on Sunday you can play something. And I am able to play on Wednesday, but for some players it's obviously bad because they are working and cannot participate. But overall, I am personally satisfied with it, especially that we are now having more PvP events in general. Now, this is probably by far the best approach I've seen regarding 1v1 balancing. That is not like extremely time consuming. Like, for example, you can balance 1v1 and AoE by creating monsters that are solely for AoE and 1v1, which is obviously a lot more work than just having an adjustment like here, where you're actually getting more EXP if a monster is being killed by a 1v1 player than by an AoE player, and this is done by damage inflict percentage. So this means you need to inflict at least 80% of the damage from single target attacks and skills. And this way you will have not only increased experience, but also increased drop rate. I personally really like this. And if you're above 120, you're at 35% increased drop in the EXP, which I don't think it's enough yet, because we will come to it later. They have done something to the HP of the mobs that may result in this not being enough, because they did not only increase 1v1 kill speed, they also increased AoE kill speed, so the timings should have to be adjusted as well. Then something I was mocking about since day one probably on stream, that in the beta we were having a ranking system, but then when the game is finally released, the ranking system got removed. And many people are eager to fight for ranks. This is also the reason why games like League of Legends with all their Edo systems, rankings, rewards and stuff are really popular. And if they will put some more thought into this, currently it's really basic ranking that is not worth mentioning too much. But if they bring season characters in there, rewards for seasons and so on, and like put the different rankings into more specific parts and include some more in-game rankings, this is going to be something that can make the game unique and a lot more worth playing than like private servers, for example. But we still want to take a look at the ranking, how it's currently working. So on the website, you can now see when you choose your server, you can see the overall ranking, but you can also check, for example, how are you compared to other people here. I personally don't like the idea of having level-based rankings. I think it should be something like DPS-based, whatever, like once you are level 140, it's done. The ranking is not improvable or whatever. And I think rankings should be like more dynamic. You should be able to overtake someone. And it should not be like a ranking that is only showing a race to highest level. But this is the current way it is. And I really hope I already said that they are increasing this ranking strategy to make it more appealing to players. Then next up, we are also having a guild ranking, which is based on guild level, which in general makes kind of sense. But here I would also like to see different kind of rankings. So you basically want to have a ranking maybe for like guild level. Okay, this is fine, but it should also not be capped then. So basically guild level should not be capped at 50, because it makes zero sense to have a ranking that is capped. I don't know, like you cannot overtake someone, there's no competition after reaching a certain point. I don't get it. But yeah, then it also has those inclusions right here. Those are based on guild versus guild war, not siege, war, where you basically sign up versus any other guild and try to kill their guild lead. This system is extremely abusable and makes no sense to be part of a ranking. I hope they are removing this as fast as possible and making a guild ranking that is actually based on secret room kill times as soon as it is released for the PvE guilds, and then having a PvP guild ranking where it's actually about the total amount of points that got scored during guild siege while people were in this guild. And yeah, that's how I would prefer to have a guild ranking that actually gives the people an idea when they're looking at the ranking who is performing well. Because like right here, for example, like getting level 50 has nothing to do with your performance. It's just either you like contributing more quest items, buying quest items out of it. There's no skill or effort or anything behind this. So I really hope they are adjusting those rankings, because the ranking itself are an amazing idea. They need to be in every game. People are really competitive, and yeah, the overall execution is poorly, sadly. Now, let's come to balance. We are having a shit ton of balance patches right here. And we are starting with the increased mercenary skill special hit SDR scaling by 40%. And this makes sense as it is the low level AoE for the mercs. And yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't get the idea, because they're arguing it's the only option for Sword and Shield Knight in the later stages to AoE. But how does this argument make sense when Jester, for example, has no AoE spell, or they are not increasing arrow rain extremely hard for Jesters only, not for Rangers? So they are having the same argument here, and they could use arrow rain to also AoE. So makes no sense for me with the arguments they are putting, but the skill itself was a bit underwhelming in the early game compared to other AoEs there. Then increased elemental skill, lightning strike scaling to 5.7 will not be really noticeable. It's not a big deal. Then we are having increased meteor shower and scaling by 7%, increased cooldown from 15 seconds to 17 seconds as the skill has no secondary effect and is purely high burst damage skill. Perfectly fine. You will have with the way you're playing while you're pulling and then using your high damage spells, this is also not affecting your playstyle a lot. Added critical damage minus 50% debuff to the elemental skill Lightning Storm. This debuff is in general really good. I like the idea of PvP being more dynamic. You are having to have like a different kind of setup, not only playing with the same characters in PvP and in Siege. And the only thing I don't like about this is that auto attack classes currently are different performing. So some are decent, some are not as good. And this is making the classes that are currently underperforming in 1v1 even worse. So I don't really like this approach. It's not fully thought through. Then we're having some increased in by the skill circle healing. Yeah. If this is making circle healing better than heal rain in Siege, this may make sense as long as it is not healing higher than heal rain. The slight increase of range in comparison to heal rain will not make a difference of it being used or not. So now we are talking about something I completely agree and disagree at the same time. So they increase block penetration for plates, makes perfectly sense. Plates are underperforming in PvP at the moment by far. Increasing block penetration for knights, on the other hand, makes zero sense because 1v1 shield knights are at the moment extremely strong in PvP and they should not get a buff in any way. So probably they have just done this because they have no idea what they're doing. Like, I don't get it at all. Like, plate, this makes so much sense and this is like extremely bad. I'm putting two of this right next to each other, but yeah, that's how it is. So this is basically the way it is. So we're having block penetration increase on the skill Rage, reduced incoming damage. This is basically the counterpart to make it not too strong, but yeah, it's the next thing. And then we're coming to the next part that is also not thought through. It makes no sense. Block penetration on Berserker. Berserker makes the plate not being able to use skills, but they designed PvP plates so he actually has to use skills and cannot just auto attack. So why would you put it on Berserk? It makes zero sense. Just use your brain. Don't get it. Man, like, I don't know who's in charge of this PvP balance, but it feels like they don't know what they're doing and they have not played PvP ever, or at least they're not good at playing it. Then we are having block penetration for Rangers, which is meh. Like, I think Rangers at the moment, if they play well and they understand their class and are not shooting only on max range, they can score really well. So I don't think this was needed at all. But it's also not as harmful as the Night Change, for example. Then for the Jester right here, this is obviously completely useless, as you should not be using any auto attacks in a Jester's situation for PvP. And the idea of like balancing a Jester around 1v1 attacks in PvP situations just makes me want to puke. If you pick Jester, you want to play a skill-based assassin that has to do like combo skills and whatever, and not just like click on a target until it's dead and just wait and pray that you're shooting faster than the other person. So I really hope they are not going into a 1v1 Jester situation, because if they're actually making 1v1 Jester better than skill-based assassin Jester, I would quit the game immediately and never return. Like, they should stop trying to destroy identities of classes, because people pick classes due to identity, and we already talked about it, how they fucked up the Psykeeper identity, because they didn't know how to balance it otherwise. Then Asmodeus is giving block penetration to build posters. This, on the other hand, I really like, because so far I have personally not seen a single 1v1 build poster in Siege, and I think there should be more varieties of how classes are being able to be played. On the other hand, for balancing reasons, where like when you balance PvP, you always have to evaluate the kill per minute ratio for all classes, and 1v1 build poster being viable adds a higher kill per minute ratio also for ASOL build posters, because while they are on ASOL cooldown, they can switch to 1v1 gear. So this needs to be observed, and there are approaches how to balance it so it's not affecting the ASOL BP. But yeah, let's see if they can figure it out. But from what they're doing, like here, for example, with the Blade Berserk, I doubt it. Then they are having this. The mercenary skill Bash, now cast twice as fast as before. This change was to make the skill more useful, giving Sword and Shield Knights more options with skills, as most skills aren't very useful for this playstyle. Makes absolutely zero sense, because Sword and Shield Knight is already, like I already said, extremely strong, and this is just making it way easier for you to position yourself. So yeah, no need to give any benefits to Sword and Shield Knights. The Jester skill Escape now casts twice as fast as before. We felt the animation was too slow before. The change was made to escaping stuns / CCs, a faster process. So I don't know what they're smoking, but if I'm stunned, I cannot press escape. So that's the first part. And I'm using it in Siege when I'm getting CC'd, for example, from like a root. And I think it was casting perfectly fine. And other classes are having Holy only, and this basically gives Jester an advantage that you have to play around. That is not necessary, because the Jester skill set is already more than strong enough. So I would also remove this change right away again. Makes no sense, and this, I have tested it, it's not possible to remove a stun. Maybe they've added it so it actually removes the stun, and if they've added this, it's even more broken and they should remove it immediately again. Then, yeah, this was also discussed in the latest patch, that they increased all the 120 bloody set parts to have their defense set to 135, but for some reason they failed, and now some of the 135 values were not matching, so they just adjusted it perfectly fine. Added, okay, this is also something that I don't get at all. They added casting speed to magic tank sets, perfectly fine, makes sense. And attack speed to physical tank sets. How is this making tank sets any more useful? Don't get it at all. Like, this gives you higher kill speed if you're using those classes. With the casting speed, of course, perfectly fine. This, on the other hand, the attack speed is giving 0 benefit to melee classes in AoE. Like, you could argue that you're like pulling a really slight bit faster, okay, but other than that, this is completely useless. Like, it's not making the same impact as this one right here, and this is just, while they tried to balance out only one AoE, they are now bringing a even higher difference to mage between melee AoE classes. So I don't know what they're thinking. Makes also no sense at all, and will just unbalance it. And mage classes were already the better AoEers than the melee classes anyways, because they could collect the monsters on range and don't have to walk all the way there. So why giving them an additional buff? Yeah. No sense. We will not be talking about the bug fixes, as this will be too much detail and it's not really important. We will just check some of the things that are actually making something. So yeah, let's talk about this right here. Reduce the Penya price of items in the cash shop due to the Penya deflation following the summer update. In general, a good idea, but also poorly executed, because it's not, they act like all the servers have the same economy. They're putting flat prices, makes no sense. Prices have to be dynamic. They have to be adjusted to the F-coin value on the server. They have to be adjusted due to the amount of Penya that is generated on the server and the amount of Penya that is being spent on the server. So all those prices need to be dynamic and not static. They have no idea about economy. This right here removed some useless consumables from daily connection rewards and added low premium consumables to them. Makes sense, because those rewards were so bad I was not even pressing the buttons anymore, because it was just like underwhelming, and all it would have done was like crapping up your inventory and you're having to lead like those stupid shit that you're getting out of there. I think really good that they're going for low premium consumables. Just shows that they're like really scared that people actually get something of value. And if you're talking about game psychology, this makes no sense, because like giving them something that is not like top tier will just be like people are like, oh yeah, okay, I got it. They will not be like happy and like be excited. And if you're playing a game, this is what you want to create in the players. Like, you want to give them a feeling of like, oh my god, I just got something great. The game must feel rewarding. It must be exciting. They want players to be coming back daily to press this button and being happy that they pressed it and getting a reward for it. This is their value, is bringing players back daily. And if they would give them like one consumable, like an upcut per day, this would be zero harm to the game. This would actually keep more players logging in daily, instead of like reducing their costs, their sales or whatever. Like, they should start learning about game psychology here. Now, this is something I've been mocking probably since like week 3 or something, when people started to get like decently high HP, and the food situation is extremely bad at the moment. You cannot really heal your HP that you basically paid for, and they put a lot of time in, and they increased the red pill to 40k, which is okay. Increased the healing slightly. Then they increased the gold pill from 50 to 80k. This is extremely insane, and I would have said it doesn't even matter. It's not going to affect PvP at all. But now that I personally missed it, that in the last event you were able to farm gold pills during the event, people that actually have gold pills stacked now for PvP can have a huge, an extremely huge advantage out of this, because like people are able to get like 70 to 80k health, and they're basically unkillable to ASOL. They have a way higher healing ability now, so this is going to make a big difference. Then we're having some additional food healings, perfectly fine. But for the future, Gala, if you're releasing events that where you behind an event you can farm gold pills, then for God's sakes make it so everyone can farm them at like an equal amount, or at like an amount that is making PvP balance, not based on if you were able to have time during farming this event or not. Maybe you just add the gold pills to the NPC, so you have less balance issues due to food reasons for PvP. Then we are having something that all the AoE ringmasters are probably extremely happy about, and I think is also really necessary, because AoE ringmaster was not performing as well as other AoE classes, and they can now inflict the stun of Stonehand with Merkaba. This will allow them to tank way higher amount of mobs right there, and still let them sit really safe. So I really like this change, because AoE ringmaster was a tiny bit underperforming. Now we're coming to something that I already were talking about in the 1v1 versus AoE balance part here. While we are having a huge decrease on the mammoths on HP wise. And yeah, this decrease is favoring 1v1 and AoE players similarly, and probably also the reason why I said that the 35% increase on 1v1 is not going to be enough, but we will see how it will put out. Then we are also having something that I personally really like, because cash shop items can now be transferred through guild bank and mailbox. Since so far, at least I don't know of any dupe accidents, so this is a good change to make, especially like for example my guild, they bought a lot of premium items and consumables for the guild, so people can like use it for free, and this way it's way easier for us to distribute all those kind of power-ups to different players. Yeah, so really like this. Now let's finish it off with the pumpkin event. We will just do a little what you can actually go for, and I will do another video in the next stage that is actually showing you the best farming routes for the pumpkin event. So stay tuned and subscribe if you want to see this video as well. It's basically similar to Mokomochi event. You fly around, you find those pumpkins and you're killing them. And they're also saying it's only a pre-event for the main Halloween event. So if this is only the pre-event, I'm really excited already what the real Halloween is, because this event is actually not too bad. So if you're taking a look right here, this is a global gacha box. This means the whole server you're playing on is using this gacha box. So basically, let's say you would be interested, like your main goal would be trying to get Scroll of Protect, because you want to +8 your set. You can take a look and see how many Spros are already out of the pool. So if it's, for example, already 10 out of 10, you just wait until more people are opening it, until the whole box is completed. Then the last item will be the blue snowboarder set that someone is getting. And then the box will be reset and all the rewards will be available again. And then it's basically your part where you're waiting until you go for the Scroll of Spros at the highest chance you have. Yeah, so overall, pretty decent event. It gives a bit of community feeling, and also allows you to, to be a bit more strategic about turning it in. And most of the rewards are also really nice as well. And of course, for the people that enjoy like collecting CS sets and whatever, you have a rare CS set that, from what we currently know, will only be available during this event and be unique afterwards. And this right here, everything is soul linked, but the set is actually, so you're able to sell it. And as a free-to-play player, this you can farm something for yourself, but you can also make a bit of pannier by the side. Yeah, that's it with a, holy shit man, 35-minute patch rundown this time. Pretty big patch. Overall, I think the patch was good, and it just had a bit of, some things were just not thought through well, and I really hope that they start like paying players that are experienced to help them with patch designing and game design, because I think they are not, they need help. And there's a lot of players that can actually help them, but they are too ego to actually ask for help, or too greedy to actually pay them for the effort they're putting in. Yeah. Cheers, guys.